All right, well, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your night to come and be here. I assume that you've had opportunity to take a look at what the program invitation is about, so that you have some idea. And I always love to say that when whoever shows up for these calls is that we have a divine appointment to be here and spend this time together. And regardless of what comes out of this, I know that by us having the opportunity to share like this, we're going to experience a breakthrough in whatever way is optimal for you and for whoever is joining us here today. So thank you and welcome. I am just really excited about what's been unfolding over the last couple of weeks, really. It's quite amazing how when you make a commitment to show up for yourself, what kind of things can show up, right? See on the screen here, at the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are and you know what you want. Lao Tzu, however many thousands of years ago this was said, and I would dare say that each of us does have all the answers at the center of our being. We do know who we are, and we do know what we want. We know what we desire. However, many, many, many times getting along on this journey, we've taken on what others expect of us, we've taken on what we think others expect of us, and in the process have forgotten to really trust and honor that wisdom that's inside of us. So you may have forgotten what it is that really lights you up. So a couple of weeks ago, I woke up with the question, are you ready to let your radiance transform your bottom line? And the 90 days showed up later. So you can imagine that I was pretty excited and I was like, wow, yeah. Well, what exactly does that mean? Well, if you have been following the information for a while that I've been sharing, then you'll know that I wrote Money and Miracles, that happened within 6 months. And that also started as a thought, as an idea. And that is really the journey about moving through clearing and releasing all the obstacles, the inner conflicts that we may have been unconscious of that stand between who we truly are, allowing who you really are, the full beingness, your full radiance, to show up and to let that actually impact and be reflected in your relationship with money. So, one of the things that I'm so passionate about is supporting conscious women solopreneurs like you to show up in the world more fully, to give yourself permission to let your radiance, that magnificent brilliance, that makes you uniquely you, show up in the world and to make a difference in the lives of those that you touch, and to make fabulous money while you're doing it, and most importantly to feel really good about it, to feel having lots of conversations over the last months with amazing women like you who have tremendous gifts, and somewhere along the line they're holding themselves back, or they're finding that they're truly experiencing, having an expensive hobby rather than a business. And the frustrating thing about this, I'm speaking from experience here, transitioning from an expensive hobby into a business that actually makes money brings up a whole new set of challenges to step into, to rise above, to transform. And I know for myself that I wouldn't be where I am now if I tried to go it alone. And having the community support is absolutely extraordinary. Just a little bit about me. Let me just show you the. You may have seen Money and Miracle. This came into being after an experiment that occurred from June last year, and then I ran a crowdfunding campaign, and by December we actually had a physical printed copy of Money and Miracles, the playbook. The theme for me running through my life is to really let joy be your guide. And in order for joy to be your guide, it to me that does not include struggle, that does not include sacrifice, and that does not include um, feeling separate from who I am. And over the last couple of months, I've been going through business training actually launched my business and transitioning out of this having an expensive hobby where I was really connecting with people, creating phenomenal breakthroughs in their lives, but my bank account wasn't reflecting that. I had some pretty deeply unconscious limitations in place that were not allowing me to both show up in my life, in my business, by being who I am, fully letting myself be seen, and to also allow myself to feel in alignment with bringing money in. And if anyone had said to me a year ago, I've just been back in Australia just over a year, if anyone had said to me back then that I was going to be writing about, teaching about, coaching about money, I would have thought they were insane. But lo and behold, this has been one of the topics that I'm so passionate about, transforming the limitations in place, because it seems to be the one thing that women like you, like me, who are phenomenal, who have awesome gifts to share with the world, get tripped up over and over and over again by this topic of money. So I feel it's really important that we address this and act. And after waking up with that question of, are you ready to let your radiance transform your bottom line in 90 days? I had to really laugh at how that showed up. So, well, am I ready? Yeah. And when you're drawn to being here, you are ready. One of the biggest things that holds women back from stepping forward in whatever area of their life is because they feel they're not ready. I dare say that you are ready, but where the disconnect may occur is that on some level you may doubt that you're able, or there may be a little hesitancy as to actually being willing. And I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but when you have an insight, you've gone through many trainings, you've attended lots of different programs, you've had coaching, and you've got this vision, and you're wanting to actually um, maybe you've set a goal for yourself. Well, now that you know what that is, so you know what you want, you know what you desire, do you get impatient with it showing up? Because many people, as you may know, really want the experience or the effect of the transformation, but the actual change we're a little hesitant about because it requires you to step out of your comfort zone. Any of those layers that have been piled on top of the truth of who you are, the fear of being rejected, the fear of being criticized, the fear of being judged, the fear of losing people that you love. If you show up being successful, one of the other things that shows up a lot is the fear that you're not going to be able to do this, even though you consciously, you say, yeah, 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 I know what to do, I know what to do. Well, you're not doing it. Why? This is why it's so important to tap into what is the fuel for you being in your business. And most of the time, what I have seen, what it comes down to is really owning your own value. And how does that play out in business? Well, for example, let me just ask how many of you feel comfortable in asking for money? How many of you are comfortable in raising your fees? How many of you provide extraordinary value in your work? And you know that when people are working with you, when you've seen it happen over and over again, that when people work with you, they experience amazing breakthroughs. So how many of you have a tendency to over deliver? And the over delivering part has to do with somewhere inside feeling that who you are, that what you're providing may not be enough. And the moment that you are able to start owning your value, even if you consciously think you do, any of the unconscious ways that hold you back from being really comfortable in owning your value, something amazing happens the moment that starts to shift. because many times extraordinary I've seen, and, this is why I am so on fire. Talk about tapping into your why, right? That why is like your soul purpose driven message to go and show up in the world, and that has to be so strong that no matter which fear show up, you're going to keep going. Even if if people are going to criticize you, people are going to want to drag you down. There's the story of the crabs. I first heard Sage Levine talk about this, and I wrote up a funny story about it. But it's pretty sad in a way, and it's true. Crabs, when they are in a pot together, if one of the crabs tries to climb out, guess what the other crabs do? They grab that one back down. So I wrote a little story about this, about this bunch of crabs finding themselves all of a sudden being in this pot and on top of each other, feeling cramped. But there was one brave, courageous soul who knew that if they worked together, that they would be able to get out and reclaim their freedom and to be, in that space that they remembered from once before, where they had the space to roam. She tried to get out of the pot, climbing on top of, and got her friends together. They were climbing on top of each other, and she was almost ready at the edge, almost ready to jump, and wham! She fell back, totally dazzled and amazed. What happened? And none of her friends would dare look at her. And finally, one of the crabs spoke up and said, "Who do you think you are, trying to get out of here? We're in this together." And the brave crab spoke up and said, "I wasn't trying to get out of here by myself. I wanted to be able to get all of us back out and reclaim the freedom that we know is our birthright." Anyway, they wouldn't hear any of this nonsense. But the brave crab, courageous crab, didn't give up. And one starry night, her and a few friends got together. They climbed on top of each other. And when the brave crab reached the top, she jumped. And soon, a few minutes later, her other friend jumped over. And before too long, they were able to create a ladder on either side of the pot, making it possible for those who were willing to join to get out of the pot and back into this space of freedom. And before too long, this excitement and the buzzing woke up the other crabs, and it took a moment before they realized what was happening. And they had a moment to decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to join them? Or are we going to stay in here because this is where we're supposed to be? Well, what do you imagine they might have done? And what would you do? And this story of the crabs is something that I have been in many communities over the years. Actually, it it brings me to tears times when I see how many times we can be in a community with extraordinary women, amazingly heart centered, awesome gifts, and it's great to be in that community. But oftentimes, what happens in there, it's like being those crabs in the pot. Now we're a bunch of happy crabs together, but remaining in that limited space, if everybody is feeling happy to connect heart to heart, and those heart to heart connections are awesome. I love heart to heart connections. Yet if there is a disconnect from allowing yourself to have heart to heart connections and feel that heart to heart connection with money, then guess what? That way that you're able to connect with one another is possibly the way you disconnect from money, which is one of the sacred archetypes, the sacred money archetypes. The challenges there is being able to bring that heart connection into your connection with money. And oftentimes, when you've been in one of those communities, maybe you can recognize this or relate to it. When you step out because you are choosing to expand and to raise your game, to show up in a bigger way, what happens? People start judging you. I've had that happen. I've had people criticize me when I was actually I was honoring my source alignment, and what that started doing was checking in with where was I being discerning and where was I not. And the more that you are in alignment with yourself and allow your soul's driven purpose, that why, that reason for getting up of bed out of bed in the morning, to be able to show up despite the fear, to allow yourself to get your gifts out there in the world and master this money game so that you can feel as connected with that as you do in your heart to heart connections with others. The more of us are able to step up in that and have that ripple effect out into the world, the more you're going to be able to discern what resonates with you. And discernment, as you know, is a very different thing from judgment. And yet those judgments are oftentimes what hold us back because we're afraid of being that lonely crab out there, right? When I was moving through a lot of these, while writing The Money and Miracles and going through the program and having the conversations with others after, because those inner conflicts can show up in many ways, right? Now, I know, you and I, we've done a lot of work on transforming consciousness. We've done a lot of work on resolving these money conflicts. And when they're still showing up, you're dealing with unconscious holdouts. You're dealing with unconscious agreements that are keeping you stuck where you're at. I've been very blessed to have phenomenal support from Nalini from Delphic Wave. She's taught me so much over the years, and one of the processes that I love working with is the dissolving the matrix, and that's really getting in there, bringing things that have been in the unconscious into awareness in a way that I had not experienced before. And so every time I say, the optimal way to transform anything these days with these energies is to surrender whatever is there to source, to the source that you are. That brings up a few little glitches because it requires you to let go of your definition of what surrender is and is not. It will bring up any of the ways you've ever felt betrayed by Source, that you felt let down, and thereby are hesitant to trust not only that Source has your back, but that you can count on the Source that you are. And interesting thing with this is, I started doing the 40-day yoga last year. And by doing those 40 days, it was actually, I think I was at day 30 or so when the experiment started. I realized that by being able to show up for myself, physically showing up, getting on that mat every day, no matter what, whew, that meant getting through some resistance, I tell you, because there were days when I really didn't feel like it, but I did it anyway. I realized that if I was getting my mind on board to support me with this 40-day goal I'd set for myself, then what would be possible if I did this for 90 days? And what would be possible if I applied that same discipline? And discipline, I love, it comes from being a disciple to yourself. What if I was willing to show up for myself with a capital S in this way to resolve the inner conflicts that I had been holding on to around money, around profit, and around business, and being a woman in business? And the big one for me was that triggered the living daylights out of me was profit. That word was associated with, big companies, sleazy car salesmen. What else? Oh yeah, making a profit is more important than connecting with people heart to heart. So I had a real aversion to this. So anyone else ever had that experience? That when you're thinking about business and you're asking, are you making a profit? That profit is also being, profiting from. So if it's at the expense of others. So I'd say, let's just offer anything that comes up for you now, any of the inner conflicts that you may not be aware of, but around money, around making a profit, and about being in business as a woman and feeling great about it, into the divine laundry, so that all those energies can be transformed and be optimized. Because unless you are making money, unless you are making a profit in your business, then you're running a charity organization. And sooner or later, that over delivery, the difficulty in asking for money, that's the boundary issue. It's not honoring you, it's not really honoring others either. What that's eventually going to do is burn you out It's going to leave you feeling incredibly disillusioned, incredibly frustrated, because deep down inside, you know that you are capable of so much more. And so, if there is any unconscious resistance or unconscious definitions or agreements in place that are really not allowing you to be profitable in your business, then let's just ask that all of those be uncreated all the way back to source now. And if you're willing for that to be transformed, then just say yes. You're ready, or you wouldn't be here. And that you're able, the source that you are knows that you are able. So sometimes the only thing that's required is a few upgrades in your inner programming, an update in believing in yourself, and an update or upgrade into remembering that you do have what it takes. And sometimes it just needs, as one of my clients, one of the ladies who signed up, she said the other day to me, she goes, "This is exactly what I was looking for. I just needed a shove with love." So I said, a shove with love to get you into action. And oftentimes the thing there is too, we say, you know what to do. Do you do what you know? I truly believe that at the core of your being, you do know which action steps to take. However, unless those action steps are in alignment with what you believe about yourself and are in alignment with your soul's purpose, your soul's drive for being here, then you'll create inner conflict. And somewhere along the line, if especially if it's in conflict with the truth of you, things are going to stall. When you go through that every day, and I've created a gorgeous checklist, a 40-day checklist that is part of the program as well, that you can remind yourself, to show up. It's like me with my yoga. I have my yoga mat on my bed in the afternoon. I put it on my bed, so in case that monkey mind gets in the way and wants to have me forget, it can't. So the same thing, you need reminders around you until something has really become a part of you. So 40 days, you go through those 40 days and you start really, really changing those habits. You'll find that as you move towards 90 days, that something somewhere will click into gear. It's like that part of your mind that's been resisting suddenly realizes that you are serious. And it's that part will come on board with you and actually become your ally. So it becomes easier to keep showing up. And then 120 days, by this time, it's become your default setting. It's automatic pilot. So regardless of whether you go through the Money and Miracles program, read the book or whatever format you're drawn to, or whether the 90-day program is calling you, whether any of that resonates with you, or whether you commit to one thing that will honor you in showing up for yourself in a bigger way. So if you start today by showing up for yourself with one thing every day that's going to be really nurturing you, for example, and you make a note of it somewhere, can you imagine 90 days from now? It's like compound interest. How differently you will feel about yourself. So maybe check in with yourself. What is one thing that you could commit to for yourself for the next 90 days that will really support you with letting your radiance fully shine? It's like allowing yourself to fully show up brighter than ever, right? To let your light shine brighter than it ever has, and to allow that to translate into money. How can you let your radiance, that connection that you feel with yourself, be brought into your experience with money? See if something comes up for you. And if there's one thing that you can commit to for the next 90 days, then go ahead and do it. It's awesome. The interesting thing, what happens though, is that unless you're really, really disciplined and you have reminders in place, and you're going to say, this takes a willingness to say, no matter what, no more excuses, I'm just going to do it, then probably somewhere along the way, you'll find excuses get in there. And I'm really taking a stand for whoever resonates to working with me, whoever resonates to joining anything that I'm offering from this moment forward, that as I'm expanding and I'm evolving and I'm taking my business to the next level, that I can actually be that support for others to step into that and to say, now is the time, no more excuses, because those excuses have cost me years, they've cost me tremendous frustration, and they've, more importantly, because my fears were holding me back and my doubts were holding me back, they have actually not only denied myself with a capital S from showing up more fully, it's also denied others from being able to experience the benefit from the transformation I'm able to facilitate through our interactions. And just as each of you have your gifts to share, it takes a willingness for you to show up in a bigger way, to let your light shine in a brighter way, so that those who can benefit from the transformation you provide can actually find you. And when they can find you, are they able to actually sign up for something? Are you able, willing to get yourself set up to actually receive money? Look, where have these money glitches been showing up? And those money conversations, this is in the Sacred Money Archetypes training, and I'm also part of the a mastermind coaching group there for the next 12 months. It's all about lifting your game, really bringing into alignment that spiritual um, your spiritual essence, your spiritual drive, your spiritual purpose with financial success. Those two must come together. I feel that when women like you and I show up in the world more fully and we're able to transform this money game, to actually feel really confident owning our value and letting our gifts be shared with the world, make great money at it, and feel really good about it, just imagine how many more people we'll be able to serve, how many more lives we can transform. And by doing so, we're able to contribute to causes and charities that we believe in. And so I know that you know this, but where are there some holdouts, or where are there something holding you back from letting yourself experience this and not just knowing about it, but living it? It's an invitation for you to up your game and to walk your talk fully. And your love of who you are has got to be stronger than your fear. Any of the ways you've been keeping small. Your willingness to let your radiance show up in its fullness has to be stronger than any of the fear of criticism or being judged or caring what other people think of you. The invitation is to let joy be your guide. And that as you let joy be your guide, it will bring up everything that society has conditioned you and all of us. It will bring up everything, all the societal conditioning as to the rules of being here. And the question there is, whose rules are they? And they tend to include having to conform, play by the rules of limitation. And if you have the courage to say, I am committed to my alignment being priority number one, allowing the source I am to inform my decisions and my actions so that I walk my talk. I'm willing to risk being judged by others. I'm willing to risk being criticized. I'm willing to risk being put down by others. I'm not going to let that hold me back. In fact, let that be fuel for you to keep moving forward and letting your gifts be shared. So I have an invitation for you. If you feel like this is resonating with you and you would like to jump in, then hop onto the innerdelight.com. You'll see the link /group programs, or just go to innerdelight.com. See it here. And at the bottom there, you will see the link, it includes, shows what's included and everything, you can actually make a deposit. And your deposit is your commitment to transformation. You have to be willing to step up, to say yes, and trust that the how will present itself along the way. Because that's another pitfall. And it plays out with money too, saying that, oh, I'll do it as soon as I have my ducks in a row. Well, you're going to be waiting an awfully long time. And you have everything inside of you right now. So whatever's in the way of letting that come out, let's just release that. Offer that up for transformation, allowing all that energy to be optimized. And that if you feel like you'd like to join the community of other women on this journey, then hop on in. I'd love to have a conversation with you. You make your deposit. We'll have a conversation about this, seeing if it's a real fit. And if after a conversation it turns out that this is not really for you, you'll get your money back. So you really have nothing to lose. The fun thing as well is that, as you know, many of us have been connecting over the years, maybe watching from the periphery, sometimes connecting one on one, other times watching, okay, what's she doing? What's she doing? As each of us has the courage to show up and to let ourselves shine brighter, take risky steps, putting things out there that you haven't done before, do webinars, do presentations, get speaking engagement. It's scary. It's scary to put yourself out there. Yet unless you're willing to do that, no one's going to be able to find you. And yeah, and I find too that when you have a community of others who are as committed to their own success as you are to yours. And it's a safe space to celebrate your successes. The thing that I'm really excited about here is that the 90-day program comes with a 100% money back guarantee, because I absolutely know that you are capable of generating awesome money by doing what you love the moment everything is in alignment. And that's what we are committed to in these 90 days. The only catch is that you are willing to show up for yourself. I've made this as easy as possible for you to show up for. I can't show up for you, and neither can anyone else. So really, that's it. If you know anyone who this might resonate with, then send them the link. If you have friends who'd like to join, come hop over. If the investment, it feels at the moment like that's a challenge for you, then schedule a call anyway, and let's find a way to make this work for you. If you believe that you are not going to be able to generate at least what you're going to be investing in this program financially within the next 90 days, then well, then you have an expensive hobby. What's it going to take to transform that into a business? Let's have a talk about that and see what we can come up with. I would dare say that if money has been something that's kept you disconnected from allowing your heart's calling to reach more people by actually allowing yourself to receive money, then there's a disconnect. And that disconnect needs to come into alignment for you to show up in the world as powerfully as you came here to be, or you would not be here. And that's what I'm passionate about. So thank you, ladies. You're awesome, beautiful. I love what each of you are sharing in the world, and I would love for you to come and join in one way, shape, or another. I invite you to reach out and commit one way or the other, whether it's to joining the 90 days, whether it's to going through the 40 days and actually receiving the support, whether it's something else. Commit to those 40 days, commit to those 90 days, and no excuses. And you'll find that the moment that you are willing to stand in that for yourself, you will find amazing things start happening with the people being drawn to you. Because unless you are walking your talk and you're willing to actually show up as powerfully as you can, how can you possibly empower others into that space? You may be getting awesome results, but you'll find yourself over delivering and being drained and exhausted, heading for burnout. Whereas when I used to fly, so when you put on your own oxygen mask first, it's about making yourself priority number one. And from that alignment, let everything else fall into place. So if any of you are finding that you're making anything or anybody else more important than your alignment with the source that you are, checking how that's playing out in your business, then I invite you to have a inner inquiry about that with yourself and check in what's it going to take for that to change. Because the moment that you show up and share yourself more fully, more people's lives are going to be positively transformed. When we are feeling empowered in our money conversations, then that ripples out into the world around us. It changes everything. That's why I'm so passionate about it. And I wouldn't have thought that a year ago. So there you go. If it's possible for me, it's possible for anyone.